Hi, I'm Clara, the creator of Your Sleep Guru podcast. This podcast is entirely independent. Every episode is written, recorded, edited, and produced by me. If you'd like to support my work, the best way is to follow the podcast and leave a rating or review. This really helps more people discover it. You can also support by downloading the Your Sleep Guru app for ad-free listening, guided meditations, mindfulness journeys, self-growth courses, and exclusive content. Thank you very much for listening and supporting this independent podcast. In this episode, you'll journey to the banks of the Mkuze River in South Africa. When a well-known explorer disappears, the camp's left uneasy, and as the story develops, you're drawn into the mystery of the African night. It gets cold here on the Mkuze River, cold at night, especially the past few nights. You've had to keep the stove fed, wood popping, just to make it through till morning. But the mornings, those are the reward. Sun punching through mist, hot coffee in your hands. From your deck, you watch the animals waking up. Elephants crossing, hippos rolling like stones in the water, buffalo, antelope, all of them drinking at dawn, and you, just you, feeling like the first human at the edge of time, when the earth was crowded with creatures and the day was new. You've been staying for a week at Sabela Camp in northern KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. It's a small camp with just a few guests, each one of them content to keep to themselves, grateful for the rare chance to experience this wild place. But in the past few days, something's drawn you all together. The famous National Geographic explorer, Benedict Haversham, has gone missing. It's been 4 days now. He's set out alone, determined to find and photograph a pangolin, a creature so rare it feels almost mythical, with scales like overlapping armor. He trusted his years in the African bush. He thought he'd be safe. Since then, the camp guides have sent out teams of trekkers, but no sign of him's been found. Not a footprint, not a broken branch, nothing. Around the campfire at night, The talk's grown uneasy. Some fear he may have been taken by a lion. And so you gather together, keeping vigil, waiting, listening to the sounds of the bush and wondering what became of him. At night, you sit with the others around the fire, the sparks rising into the dark like restless spirits. The guides tell stories about Benedict, their voices low, as if the man himself might be listening from the shadows. One story concerns the desert, of how he once vanished in the Namib. For days, there was no word. When he stumbled back into camp, his lips were cracked, his eyes sunken, but his camera was still strapped to his chest. He'd chased what he thought was a flock of flamingos to water, only to find a mirage shimmering on the horizon. He survived by catching dew in his lens cloth at dawn. Another tale is of a night in the bush when he woke to see a leopard balanced above him, its eyes glowing like embers. He didn't move. He didn't even breathe. At dawn, the leopard slipped away, silent as a shadow. You listen, and you wonder which parts are true and which a legend. Later, lying in your tent, you hear the cries of animals drifting through the night, and the stories keep you awake. You hope that Benedict's okay. Another day passes. The weather turns first. By afternoon, the sky bruises purple and grey. The air, thick with waiting. Wind rises through the fever trees, restless, carrying the scent of rain. By dusk, the storm breaks. sudden and hard, rain hammering on the canvas, the camp vanishing in mist and water. You stand under the awning, listening to the wind rush through the branches, wondering if somewhere out there Benedict is seeing the same storm. When the guides return at night, they bring only silence. No tracks, no sign, no clue. It's the evening of the 5th day. You sit outside your tent with a cup of tea, watching the animals gather at the river as the sun dips low. A flock of spur-winged geese suddenly takes to the sky, their wings flashing in the light, their calls sharp, as if they're disturbed. You follow their flight, and that's when you see him, a figure striding along the riverbank. Benedict. For a moment you doubt your own eyes, but then you notice that others have seen him too. Guides, fellow campers, everyone rising at once, calling his name, running towards him. He raises a hand, almost embarrassed, modest, shrugging off the attention. He says he's fine, but his eyes reveal something deeper. He has a story to tell. Later you gather around the fire in the center of camp. Someone presses a tin cup into Benedict's hand. He drinks deeply and smiles. He lowers himself down into a camp chair, brushing the dust off his trousers. And the chatter around him settles into silence. Everyone's waiting. He looks a bit embarrassed by all the attention, apologizing first for the worry he's caused, for the long days of searching. He says he never meant to trouble anyone. But then his voice changes, light catching in his eyes. He tells you he's had the most fantastic time, as though he'd stepped out of the world and into another, a place only he'd been allowed to see. The fire crackles, and you lean forward, knowing that the story he's about to tell will stay with you forever. He begins with the pangolin. He'd followed its trail for miles, tracking the faint prints in the dust and the delicate claw marks along tree roots. Finally, in a hollow near the river, he finds it, a creature out of time. He observes as it shuffles forward, tail sweeping, nose pressed to the ground, searching for ants. With quick, precise strokes of its claws, it opens a mound, tongue flicking in and out, impossibly long, drawing insects into its mouth. What amazes him most is how little it appears to notice he's there. No fear. It moves around him as if he were part of the landscape, carrying on with its secret life. He takes photographs, fills pages of notes, so engrossed in watching that he loses all sense of time. Only when the light fades and the sky turns black does he stir. He recognizes the danger of his situation alone, far from camp. The pangolin has vanished into the dark. He sees nothing, not even the ground at his feet. Only the thoughts of unseen predators nearby. All at once, a figure stepped from behind a tree. Benedict froze, heart pounding, but not with fear, relief. Whoever this man was, he posed no threat. Tall, slender, his face hidden in darkness, hidden in shadow, impossible to see clearly. The man spoke softly, in a language Benedict couldn't understand. The words floated past him like water over a stone. Then the man extended a hand. Benedict took it without hesitation. Together, they moved into the night. The tall stranger guiding him across the veld. The grass rustled beneath their legs. The darkness closing in on all sides. They walked for a long time, slowly and carefully, with the veld stretching out beneath the stars. The starlight allowed Benedict to see the man in more detail. He could see the folds of cloth swaying as he moved, and hear the whisper of fabric brushing against itself. Beads and shells rattled softly with each step. The man carried a large staff, topped with a big piece of quartz that faintly glimmered in the starlight. As they walked, Benedict grew more certain that this was no ordinary man. He belonged to another time and another world, leading Benedict not just across the wilderness, but into something far older, a path that stretched beyond the reach of the stars. As they moved along, Benedict started to notice the silence. At first, it was subtle, the night sounds of the bush growing softer, as if drifting away. What replaced it was something else, a hum so low it might have been the earth itself breathing. Each time the man's staff struck the ground, the quartz caught the starlight and flared briefly. Benedict's sense of time grew faint. He no longer knew if minutes or hours were passing. He felt light, unmoored, as if the path was carrying him as much as he was walking it. The veld stretched on in shadow. But he had the sensation he was being led not across land, but through a doorway, each step slipping him further into another realm. At last, they arrived at a clearing, a place that seemed older than the veld itself. Low huts encircled a wide fire, their walls woven from reeds and clay with thick thatch roofs. Figures sat silently around the flames, their faces illuminated by firelight, their shadows long and still. It was as though they'd been waiting. Benedict and the tall man stepped forward and joined them. They sat together, no words spoken, only the crackle of the fire and the embers rising into the night, climbing towards the stars until the two appeared to meet. Somebody placed a wooden bowl in Benedict's hands. Soup, simple and hot. He tasted it, and it was unlike any food he'd ever known. Rich and full, as if the earth itself had bestowed it upon him. Around the fire no one spoke, yet he felt their presence within him, flowing like a current. Thoughts, strength, love. It moved through him until he could hardly tell where he ended and they began. Then the truth came, as if whispered into his soul. Carry this back. Tell them that love is the only answer, that every person must be met with love, without boundaries, without fear, without condition. No creed, color, or belief can withstand it. Only love endures. Only love saves. Benedict woke in the veld, the stars fading into the pale edge of dawn. The huts were gone. The fire, the people, the tall man vanished. There was no trace of them, no ash, no footprints, not even his own. For a moment he lay still, unsure if he'd dreamed it all. Then he opened his hand. Resting in his palm was a small, heart-shaped stone of rose quartz. And with it came the memory. Firelight, the circle of faces, the love that poured into him, filling him until he thought he might burst. The message rose again, clear and undeniable. Love is the answer. Love without measure, without limit. It was as true in the daylight as it had been in the dream. He pressed the stone to his chest and breathed it in. Across the veld, a small herd of antelope moved slowly across the grass, their spiral horns and soft hides glinting in the morning light. Benedict rose and followed them. He knew they'd lead him to water, and the water would lead him back to the river. He followed the antelope for a long time, their cautious steps carrying him across the open veld until at last he reached the river, the Mkuze. Its waters slipped quietly through the reeds, brown and gleaming under the morning sun. He turned west, knowing the river would guide him back to camp. The day grew hot, the air humid and heavy, but he felt light, as if he floated just above the earth. He wasn't hungry or thirsty. The bowl of food the tribespeople had given him was still with him, not only in his stomach, but in his blood, in his bones. The river moved beside him, a gentle song in the reeds. The light dancing across the surface in patterns that seemed to carry messages. It was as if he was walking not only back toward camp, but back through the memory of the night, the love he'd been given, rising in his chest with every mile. By the time the sun set, the river had carried him to higher ground, and from there, across the veld, he saw the shapes of canvas roofs and the faint trail of smoke rising into the amber sky, the camp. For a moment he stood still, watching the shadows stretch long across the earth. He felt different now, as if the man who'd set out with his camera had vanished with the night. He thought of the years spent chasing images, chasing moments to pin to a page, always hungry for proof of what he'd seen, and he knew he was finished with that. His work was no longer to capture the world, but to carry its truth, the truth he'd been given, that in a world slipping into darkness, love must be the light. His mission wasn't photographs, not words, but love itself, offered without boundary, without condition, to all he might encounter. The camp was quiet as he descended towards it. He saw the figures of his guides and campmates gathered around the fire, the flames flickering as dusk deepened. Someone looked up, then another, and soon they were on their feet, voices calling his name. He walked into the circle of light, and they welcomed him in. He lowered himself onto a chair by the fire, and in that moment, surrounded by his companions, he felt the weight of the message burning steady in his chest, ready to be shared. You were there among them, sitting in the circle, the firelight warm on your face, the smell of wood smoke drifting through the air. Benedict spoke softly, his voice steady and clear, and the words hit you with unexpected force. Love is the answer. Meet each person with love. No boundaries, no conditions. You could feel the truth of it smoothing the raw places inside you, giving you quiet strength. You knew then that you'd take it from this circle and carry it back into your life, to every person you meet. Love as the light. And in that cold that came before dawn, when the fire was ash and the mist lay heavy over the Mkuze River, you felt it rising again in your chest. Simple, steady, unshakable. The gift you'd been given, the truth you'd carry forward. Only love endures.